Welcome to Just the Facts. We've all seen the headlines. President places new tariffs on country X.
Right.
And it's presented as, a routine exercise of presidential power. But if you open up the U.S. Constitution, you find a surprising fact. The power to set tariffs, to tax imported goods, it doesn't actually belong to the president.
That's the crux of the issue, Alex. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution is unambiguous.
Unambiguous.
It grants Congress the power to lay and collect duties and to regulate commerce with foreign nations.
Okay.
There's no mention of the president, so the immediate question is, how can the president do this?
Yeah.
Is he seizing power?
Not exactly seizing it. It's more like the power was, it was given to him.
Given?
This goes back to the 1930s and a piece of legislation that's now infamous, the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act.
Ah, yes.
Congress, with members all trying to protect their home industries, created this chaotic web of high tariffs that other countries retaliated against. It was an economic disaster that made the Great Depression even worse.
And that experience led to a major shift.
Right.
Congress realized that setting complex trade policy by a committee of 535 people was slow and just, vulnerable to political games.
Wow.
So over the next several decades, they started delegating that authority to the president to give him flexibility in negotiations and the ability to act quickly.
Okay.
It's like Congress owns the car, the tariff power, but they handed the president the keys.
What are those keys exactly?
Well,
what are the specific laws the president is using?
there are two main ones. First is Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962.
Okay.
It lets the president impose tariffs if the Commerce Department determines that imports threaten to impair the national security. The second, and the one causing the most controversy, is the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977, known as IEEPA.
IEEPA.
It gives the president vast powers to regulate the economy during a national emergency that he declares.
But wait, IEEPA was designed for things like sanctions against rogue nations or terrorist financing, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Not for broad tariffs justified by something like a trade deficit.
And that's precisely the argument being made in court.
Okay.
Dozens of businesses and even states have sued, claiming the president is taking these delegated powers far beyond their original intent. They argue he's stretching the definition of national security and emergency to do whatever he wants on trade, effectively, nullifying Congress's constitutional role.
Which brings us to a landmark court case, VOS Selections, Inc. versus the United States.
Right.
This wasn't just a symbolic lawsuit. It had real teeth.
It did. VOS is a small, family-owned wine importer.
Wow.
They, along with other businesses and states, challenged the legality of the tariffs imposed under IEEPA.
Okay.
In May of 2025, the U.S. Court of International Trade, a specialized court designed for these exact issues, sided with them. It was a stunning legal rebuke declaring the president's use of IEEPA for these tariffs unlawful.
How did the court justify that?
Well,
Overruling a president's declaration of a national emergency seems like a huge step.
the court didn't second-guess the emergency itself. Instead, it focused on the law. It deployed two powerful constitutional doctrines. The first is the non-delegation doctrine.
Right.
This is the idea that Congress can't just give away its lawmaking powers.
Okay.
It must provide an intelligible principle, a clear roadmap for the president to follow. The court said IEEPA's language about regulating transactions was not a clear roadmap for imposing unlimited global tariffs.
In questioning, and the second doctrine?
That's the major questions doctrine. It's a concept the Supreme Court has sharpened recently.
Okay.
It basically says if the executive branch is going to make a decision of vast economic and political significance, and a global tariff war certainly qualifies, then Congress's authorization in the statute must be exceptionally clear and direct.
Wow.
You can't find an elephant in a mouse hole. The court found no such clarity in IEEPA.
The government must have had a counter-argument.
Of course.
Did they point to any precedents?
They pointed to United States versus Yoshida, a 1975 case, where the courts upheld President Nixon's 10% import surcharge, which he also imposed under an emergency power. But the CIT court said that was different. Nixon's tariff was temporary, and more importantly, since that time, Congress has passed other specific laws, like the Trade Act of 1974, that lay out precise, limited ways for a president to deal with trade deficits.
So,
the court's message was clear. You can't use a general emergency power when Congress has already created a specific tool for the job.
so the case is now on appeal, and all signs point to the Supreme Court.
Exactly.
What does that showdown look like?
It's a true constitutional heavyweight match.
Wow.
On one side, you have nearly a century of courts giving the president broad deference on matters of foreign policy and national security.
Right.
On the other, you have a modern Supreme Court that has shown a deep skepticism of broad executive power and a keen interest in reviving these very doctrines, non-delegation and major questions, to rein it in. It's a collision course.
It's a fascinating dilemma.
It is.
A Congress holds the constitutional power, but has shown it can be ineffective, even destructive, when it wields it directly. The president can act decisively, but in doing so, he may be overstepping his constitutional bounds.
And that leaves the courts to draw the line.
Yeah.
But a judiciary redrawing the boundaries of power between the other two branches, well, that is a very delicate and momentous task.
Now, here's a question we'd like you to think about. If Congress has the constitutional authority over trade, but often lacks the political will to act, and the president has the will but may be exceeding his authority, where should the power to set tariffs ultimately lie in our modern, fast-moving world?